Hey people, it's Niall Stokey. Now this is from the Daily Mail. Inside Donald Trump's underground bunker at the White House where the president hid as George Floyd protesters took the street in Washington, D.C., Secret Service agents rushed President Donald Trump to a White House bunker on Friday night as hundreds of protesters gathered outside the executive mansion, some of them throwing rocks and tugging at police barricades. Trump spent nearly an hour in the bunker, which was designed for use in emergencies like terrorist attacks, according to a Republican close to the White House who was not authorized to publicly discuss private matters and spoke on conditions of anonymity. First Lady Melania Trump and their young son Barron likely joined the president in the bunker, according to CNN. The account was confirmed by an administration official who also spoke on condition of anonymity. Massive demonstrations in Washington, D.C., as well as dozens of other major cities across the country have been sent this past week after police involved death of George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, in Minneapolis last Monday. What do we know about the subterranean facility underneath the east wing of the White House complex, officially known as Presidential Emergency Operations Center? It was built in the early 1940s by then President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. At the time, the U.S. was involved in World War II. FDR's successor, Harry Truman, expanded the PEOC as part of a massive renovation of the White House complex that included complete demolition and expansion of the structures. It was rarely, if ever, used by subsequent administrations until the event of September 11, 2001, for senior officials of the George W. Bush administration into the area for fear that a hijacked plane was headed for the White House. The president was not in Washington, D.C. on that day. 4 commercial airliners were hijacked and then flown into the Pentagon World Trade Center and a field in Pennsylvania. But Vice President Dick Cheney, First Lady Laura Bush, and other senior aides were quickly whisked to the area that morning. In her 2010 memoir, Spoken from the Heart, Laura Bush recalled the experience of being rushed to the bunker. I was hustled inside and downstairs through a pair of big steel doors that closed behind me with a loud hiss, forming an airtight seal, she wrote. I was now in one of the unfinished subterranean hallways underneath the White House, heading for the PEOC, the Presidential Emergency Operations Center, built for President Roosevelt during World War II. We walked along the old tile floors with pipes hanging from the ceiling and all kinds of mechanical equipment. The POC is designed to be a command center during emergencies with televisions, phones, and communication facilities. She then describes being hauled into a small conference room with a large table. Officials, White House photographers captured images of Cheney, the First Lady, and other top aides like National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice conferring with each other on that day. It is believed that this is the same room that Trump and his family were rushed to on Friday night. Bush administration officials came to the conclusion that the POC, as it was constituted at the time, was not sufficient to allow the president and his aides to function efficiently during an emergency. So the White House began a massive project to build another, larger bunker believed to be 5 stories higher under the North Lawn. After the attack, national security people recognized that this is not just going to cut it. Another author, Ronald Nessler, who wrote a book in 2018 about the Trump White House, told Washington Post that's just not sufficient. Kessler continued, the idea was before that if there were a nuclear attack or something, biological, radiological, the White House staff or the president's people could be evacuated to some remote location at West Virginia or Pennsylvania. But then they realized after 9/11 that they could never leave Washington City by vehicle because all the roads were clogged. It would take too long, and even by helicopter it would be very risky given that the country was under attack. So they came up with this scheme to create a totally separate facility, an underground bunker under the North Lawn. In 2010, the General Service Administration undertook a massive construction project just outside the West Wing. The official explanation given by the GSA when reporters asked about the purpose of the construction was that it was done to replace existing infrastructure of the White House. Construction project officially a long overdue upgrade of the White House utilities beginning in September 2010, where excavation of a huge multi-story pit in front of the West Wing, wrapping around to include West Executive Avenue, a street that separates the White House from the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. A tall green construction fence sprang up that blocked America's most famous office complex from public view. The GSA went to great lengths to keep the work secret, not only putting up the fence around the excavation site, but ordering subcontractors not to talk to anyone and to tape over company info on trucks pulling into the White House gates. What it consists of is 5 stories deep into the underground, with its own air supply and food supply, Kessler said, although he added the few details unknown. It is sealed off above the ground area so that if there were, for example, a nuclear attack, the radiation would not penetrate into this bunker, which has very thick concrete walls and that sort of thing. The facility, which is meant to serve as a command center and living quarters for the president and senior aides, is said to be stocked with enough food to last for months while its air supply is self-contained. In total, it cost more than $376 million to build. Shortly after Trump's arrival at the White House, he and a few of the aides were given a tour of the facility. If their president ever needed to flee the White House, he could go through at least 2 tunnels. One of them leads to the Treasury Building and an unmarked entrance on H Street. The other tunnel leads to the South Lawn, where the president can quickly board Marine One. Well, I hope you find that interesting, because this is quite striking news, like the president having to take cover in his bunker, which I don't strictly think was necessary, but whatever. I suppose that's what his Secret Service decisions are made for. Anyway, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.